Would you like to come in?
Oh. Definitely not.
Regina finally gets some love in the form of a bad boy, and Rumple and Rogers track a serial killer. Let's break down Season 7, Episode 12 of Once Upon a Time right here on What Happened. Welcome back, Oncers, to this week's recap. So this episode is called A Taste of the Heights, which refers to the food truck festival that we see Sabine attending. This episode brought back Dr. Facilier, who we also get to meet in Hyperion Heights, as well as his minion, Prince Naveen, aka Drew. Well, it's kind of a minion because there's a price that has to be paid for bringing someone back to life, and Naveen is paying that price. As for Regina, those of you who have been waiting for a love interest for her all season, she finally gets it in this episode, and it turns out she's got a thing for bad boys, or more like evil men. That's right, she has a past with Dr. Facilier, and we get to see the two of them come back together in both Fairy Tale Land and Hyperion Heights, where he's known as Mr. Samdi. There's something kind of enjoyable about seeing Regina back flirting with the dark side, but also I just want her to be happy and have a happy ending with a good guy like Robin, so I kind of hope this fling doesn't last too long. Anyway, let's break down this episode. First, let's check in with Jacinda, Henry, and Lucy. Henry has decided to get in on the podcast craze and go all serial on us with his H-Town podcast. And it seems like it's a hit, even though it seems like all he does is talk about Jacinda. Lucy is back to her preppy and slightly annoying self, trying to get Henry and Jacinda together. Since Sabine doesn't want any help at the festival, Jacinda and Lucy decide, hey, let's have a game night. And of course, Lucy's like, we should invite Henry. Henry is all in, and Lucy decides to retire to bed early to give Jacinda and Henry some alone time. And Henry brings up the mixtape he learned she made for him, so they discuss that and a bunch of other things, and it seems like things are starting to finally heat up again. They're about to kiss until someone interrupts, and that person is none other than Lucy. While she was in her room, the boogeyman, or rather just something creepy in her closet, opened the doors just enough to pique her interest, and she got up but didn't find anything in the closet when she checked. When she gets back in bed, a folded up page falls from her Once Upon a Time book, and the page shows the ramifications of the curse, and that if Henry and Jacinda kiss, Henry dies. So yeah, Lucy put her butt in gear just in time to stop that fate. Of course, that kind of sucks because it's just like, how many times do we have to watch this kind of push and pull with Jacinda and Henry? Can someone just break this curse already? Because it's starting to be too repetitive. Now for our crime-fighting duo of Rumple and Rogers. Rogers is trying to blame himself for everything that's happened with Victoria and all that, but Rumple assures him it's not his fault. Rumple then pulls out the file for Lucy's doctor and explains how she supposedly died of natural causes. At the same time, Victoria died, but something's pretty fishy here because not only was she dead on her floor, she was missing a locket of hair. Now they're determined to find the source of all this evil that they hope leads them back to Eloise. They head to the bakery where the doctor frequented every morning, and they're greeted by a really creepy blind baker who has a fetish for gingerbread. The baker isn't very helpful, but she does offer them a cookie as they leave, and turns out to be more helpful than they thought. They see she has a very familiar tattoo on her wrist. Yeah, that mark of the coven. They head back to the bakery after it's closed and break in to find that the gas from the stove has been left on, and the baker is handcuffed to a table. She is somehow still alive, just hanging on by a thread, and they discover she has something in common with the doctor. She has a lock of hair missing. Knowing this is something much bigger than they thought originally, Rumple heads over to Ronnie's to fill in Regina and Selena on what's going on. He explains that he thought it was the coven who actually killed the doctor, but it turns out she was part of the coven, and they shows a picture of her with a tattoo that looks like it was trying to be removed, so it's like a big scar, but yeah, that mark was already made. They realize someone is killing witches, but who? Also, leave it to Regina and Selena to bring a few laughs to this episode.
Looks like a tattoo removal. Apparently in my cursed persona, I've made some poor decisions. I mean, who loves Def Leppard lyrics that much? Pour some sugar on me.
Alright, so now most of the episode focuses on Tiana and Sabine. So first, let's travel to Fairy Tale Land, where it is the day of Tiana's coronation. She defeated Lady Tremaine, and everything seems fine and dandy until a ghost from her past appears, none other than Dr. Facilier, who it seems like knows Regina pretty well. He gives Tiana a glimpse into her future, saying she'll have to face a test before she can become queen, which is that a beast has threatened the kingdom, and she needs to go to the fairy docks to find it. She thinks he's lying, but she knows that she can't not go to see if he's telling the truth, so she heads to the docks with Hook and Ella. They come upon some wreckage and find that Dr. Facilier is telling the truth, and are greeted by a cocky stranger who is out to catch this beast of a gator as well. He immediately butts heads with Tiana, and it turns out this guy is none other than Prince Naveen, and supposedly his enchanted spear is the only weapon strong enough to kill this gator. So now they're forced to team up with this guy, much to Tiana's chagrin. Tiana and Naveen continue to butt heads over who is in charge and heroes and being controlling and all that when they come upon a man who's been injured by the gator. Hook and Ella take this man to get help while Naveen and Tiana head to the bog where they sit in a boat to wait for the gator to appear. They end up having some time to kill, and he assumes Tiana is controlling while she assumes Naveen is too carefree and not serious. She thinks he's basically a spoiled prince who doesn't know what hard work is and has had everything handed to him, but it turns out he's actually there to catch the gator because it killed his brother. They both find it hard to trust people, but it seems like they're starting to get on the same page until Tiana spots something in Naveen's bag that looks like it belongs to Dr. Facilier, and now she thinks something fishy's going on and pulls the spear on Naveen, but then the gator just happens to bump the boat, grab Naveen, and thrash him around in the water until Tiana's able to kill it with the spear. She gets back on land, but it seems like he's a goner when who magically appears? Dr. Facilier, of course. Tiana's pissed and asks what Facilier got out of sending her after the gator, and he uses his magic to pull out some kind of necklace with like a cool medallion on it out of the water, which is something he says the gator stole from him long ago. She demands he bring Naveen back to life, but Facilier says in order to do so, it's going to take the highest magic, which of course comes with the steepest price. Since he royally screwed over Tiana, though, she refuses to pay that price and says that necklace should be enough. Facilier is kind of like, okay, fine, I guess you got a good point there. So he brings Naveen back to life. But of course, no one comes back to life without a price to pay. So, poof, Naveen disappears. Turns out Dr. Facilier has let Tiana off the hook, but Naveen still has to pay a price. So until that debt is paid, Naveen belongs to him. Tiana promises that she will find Naveen, and Dr. Facilier then disappears. Tiana returns home to finish up her coronation. It seems like her adventure with Naveen has actually taught her that she can't do everything on her own. Sometimes she needs some help, and it's something that she also learns in Hyperion Heights as well. She's built some trust with the group, obviously, and she now asks them to join her when greeting the kingdom because she knows she can't protect the kingdom on her own. Now, as they go off to greet the kingdom, Regina stays behind because she has this feeling and knows someone is there hiding. Dr. Facilier emerges, and it turns out the necklace he wanted from that gator was actually Regina's, and it's been a long time since she wore it, and she says she's a different person now. Facilier, though, has some kind of hold still over Regina and uses his creepy, charming, and entrancing ways to, well, get her to kiss him again.
I miss my queen.
Oh, Regina, what is your history with Dr. Facilier, and what is the importance of this necklace? Why does he need you back in his life? Well, this romance here also reemerges in Hyperion Heights, so let's get on to that part of the storyline. Henry is at Ronnie's when the lights start flickering and things get a little creepy, and out of nowhere, a man named Baron Samdi, or Mr. Samdi, appears. He's looking for Ronnie and says he's an investor who was pushed out of town by Victoria, but now that she's pretty much gone and dead, he's back to try to improve things. Since Ronnie isn't around, he gives Henry his card, which Henry ends up giving to Regina. Now, Regina's not too happy to see that business card and tells Zelina, who happens to be dodging calls from her fiance Chad, that they now have bigger problems. They are now wondering if Samdi, who of course is Facilier, is awake, so they devise a plan to find out. Mr. Samdi returns to the bar where Zelina pretends to be Ronnie and Regina pretends to be Kelly, aka each other's cursed names, to try to trick Mr. Samdi. He goes along with it, and they tell him, they're not interested in selling, but he's like, you know what, call me if you change your mind. The episode ends with Regina knocking on Samdi's door, where she tells him to drop the act because she knows he's awake. He drops that act, and she asks why he's here, and he just invites her to come in. Regina says no, but he kind of has his feeling she's going to follow anyway, so he just walks away and leaves the door open, and yeah, sure enough, Regina follows him in and closes the door. The last thing to talk about is Sabine in Hyperion Heights, who is getting her food truck ready for the Taste of the Heights festival. Just like Tiana in Fairy Tale Land, we see that Sabine is kind of controlling and only really trusts herself, and she wants to work alone, so she tells Jacinda and Lucy she'll be fine and she can run the truck alone. All seems well until an old friend shows up at the festival who goes by the name of Drew, who we all know as Prince Naveen. He's pretty much a guy who was spoiled as a kid and had everything handed to him, and he's pretty cocky, so sounds familiar, right? Turns out he went to cooking school with Sabine, but dropped out to work at his parents' restaurant. He reveals that he's actually there with his own food truck, which does not make Sabine too happy. As she's setting up her truck, a cop comes over telling her that he has to check her permits, and it turns out she doesn't pass his inspection because she's missing a food safety permit. Turns out he says he got an anonymous tip, and Sabine knows who that came from. She's like, that has to be Drew, because who would waste their breath reporting something like this to the cops? She confronts Drew, and he says he had no idea what she's talking about. He thinks for a second and then's like, oh crap, wait, maybe it was my silent partner, Mr. Samdi of all people, who invested in Drew and said that he can guarantee his success. As Sabine is packing up, Drew comes over and gives her his safety permit and offers to help. He then reveals that he's been lying for a while, and he actually flunked out of cooking school, and he feels bad and wants to help her. The rest of the festival goes great as Drew helps Sabine, but things go wrong when Drew goes to throw away some trash, and of course, who's lurking in the shadows by the trash can? Mr. Samdi. Turns out Drew is just doing what Mr. Samdi orders him to do, which at the moment is to mess with Sabine and earn her trust, because Samdi thinks Sabine will help him get something he's wanted for a long time. So for now, Drew just has to keep putting on this act to win her over. But it seems like Drew kind of doesn't want to. He seems like he's actually got a conscience and knows that what he's doing is hurtful. But Drew has some kind of debt he has to pay off still, and I don't think it's going to be pretty. Now, fairy tale Prince Naveen, I'm not going to lie, wasn't too fond of. He was definitely cocky and annoying, but he did start to open up towards the end before he died. Same thing happens with that Hyperion Heights counterpart. I actually think the part of Drew that we saw where he was helping Sabine is more of who he probably really is, so let's hope that he does the right thing and somehow ends up telling Sabine the truth without getting in trouble, because if he wins her over and makes her fall for him and breaks her heart, I'm not going to be happy. Also, I was kind of still rooting for Rogers and Sabine to be a thing, but now with Drew in the picture and Rogers so wrapped up in his work, I'm kind of thinking that might not happen. As far as who slipped Lucy the page about the curse, I'm kind of hoping it's Drizella, because I am hoping she gets some redemption. Maybe she's trying to make some amends, because, her and her mom got to make amends before she died, so maybe she's now going to do the right thing. But who knows? She's not in this episode, so we don't get to see that. I'm also a little upset that they made Sabine's character so annoying in this episode. She always seemed pretty carefree and happy in the free spirit until this episode when they had her do a complete 180 to be very guarded and not trusting and kind of, for lack of a better word, controlling. So I hope that doesn't last and we get the Sabine that we've seen in previous episodes. Now let's check out the promo for the next episode.
I'm getting you out of this tower once and for all.
I need magic to set her free.
This magic is in the hands of another famous captain.
I'm here looking for Maui's fish hook. If you really know who I am, then you know how this will end.
1, 2,
Maybe we can fix each other.
5, 6,
I need your help.
9, 10.
Alright, more pirates, and it looks like we get a little bit of Moana coming into play with the appearance of Maui's Hook. Also, we saw Hook face off with another pirate with peg leg, so which pirate is this? Is this a famous pirate? Perhaps maybe Captain Barbossa or somebody. That pretty much wraps up this recap, so let me know what you thought of this episode. How do you feel about this whole Regina and Dr. Facilier thing? What do you think he's in town for? What will happen now that Lucy knows true love's kiss will kill Henry? Sound off in the comments down below, then be sure to check out casting details about the Pretty Little Liars spinoff right over here. If you like what you see, feel free to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. My name's Lisa. I'll see you later, oncers.